Introduce your company and tell us what Lookadok means.
Oh, thank you. Lookadok is a word our president coined. Look is, as in English or Latin, it means to look and to look nice yourself, and also to observe others. Adoc is originally it's ADOC, is a Latin word which means adapt. So that gives the philosophy, the essence of our training programs. That is to look and to observe, always observe your customers and adapt your strategy based on your observation. And Lookadok is a Paris-based international training company dedicated to retail training, particularly in fashion, in cosmetics, in luxury retail.
Great. So you're training the workforces for retail staff in China.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this and the challenges you face in China?
Yeah, we train the front line of customer service. We train the shop assistant how to look like a ambassador to your brand, and how to observe customers, communicate with them with good verbal and non-verbal communication skills, how to provide professional advices to them, and how to sustain your brand image and gain customer loyalty. One thing that we realize is very difficult in China, and now we have operated in China for almost 2.5 years, is that China has a very short history of consumerism, no more than 25 years. And the actual luxury and fashion retail boomed only in the last decade or so. So the salespeople themselves have a very short and very simplified concept of luxury and lifestyle. They more or less think the customer come to the shop just for the goods, and not for the entire shopping experience. So they think as long as they're not too bad, they're good enough. Well then, in the mature market, or more and more Chinese customers, they demand, so as long as your service is not too good, it is bad. So the difference in perspective from the customer side, and from the expectation of the customers and management, and from what the salespeople perceive, has a huge gap. So we're trying to address the gap.
Great. So if we look at the problems we have with retail staff, could you give us some examples, specific examples? What are the mistakes that are being made by retail staffs in retail?
One thing is that the Chinese staff, when they face difficult questions, when the actual answer is no, we have to face we often say you can never say no to customers, but in reality there are lots of questions to which the answer is a no, a sure no. For example, if you come to a cake shop and ask, do you have leather jackets to sell? It is a no, right? But the thing is that when the Chinese retail staff, when they have to say no, then they actually end with a no. We always say you cannot end your answer with a no. You say no, we don't do this which you require, but alternatively we have something. Yeah, often the conversation just stop at no. And they think it's, I'm presenting you the reality, the factuality. The answer is no. I can't do anything else, and that is a very unique problem in the retail reality now.
As consumers get more demanding, what are other
Yes.
changes we see in the demands from consumers?
We often say the Chinese consumer, compare with mature markets, Chinese consumers demand more, while Chinese sales associates provide less. So that's a paradox, and that's also a problem many training managers and also our company is trying to address. Chinese consumers tend to be like short-tempered when they need the service and they need it right here and now. If the service is not around them, they will make a scene. So you find this in the Chinese shop here and also in shops in Hong Kong, which are frequented by mainland tourists. And that's also many Hong Kong retailers find difficult to tackle because the local sales associate, the Hong Kong sales associates are not used to this. They can serve the Hong Kong local customers very well, but then when they find the mainland Chinese customers are different, they find it's quite hard to tackle. We have some training requests from Hong Kong retailers as well, train their staff how to serve the mainland Chinese customers better.
I believe training staff is also a costly project to do. And another problem retailers are facing in China is the high and quick turnaround of staff.
Yeah.
How do you address this problem?
It is a costly thing to do, particularly in China. One thing is that the monthly salary of Chinese retail staff is lower than the Western standard, while the training does not cost significantly less than in the West. So in proportion to their salary, the training cost on them is very high. And making it even worse is Chinese retail staff in particular, but Chinese in general, tend to resign much faster than in the West. I had a figure that in Chinese, urban Chinese population across all industries change a job every 17 months. So with that rate, with that turnover, it's very hard to schedule a long-term training plan.
So how do you solve this problem?
We always, in our training, also in our training plan, we always encourage the training managers of the brands, of our clients, and also the sales associate. We try to convey a message that the training skills we give is not just good. It is good for the job, but it is also good for the long-term career advancement. It's a skill for the sales associates, which they can benefit beyond this job. And also, if the training managers of the brand can convey a message to their sales associates that if they stay longer with the brand, actually they can gain skills useful for their lifetime. And it is actually true, the communication skills, verbal communication, non-verbal communication skills, how to link to people, is very good for their personal relationship. Some of my trainees even told me that the skills gained from our training actually enhance their relationship with their boyfriends. So that will make them actually stay longer with the company because of the training. If they realize that if I stay longer with the company, they have a long-term training plan for every 6 months. I will gain this skill and this skill. So that will make them aspire to what is next in next 1 year. I may get this skill, even though I planned like in 5 years, in 3 years, I have another job. Maybe I can gain more skills in this job for next job. So that will make them actually stay longer.
Do we also see a switch in compensation, going from a cash incentive more to a career development incentive?
Yeah, and that's a difficult question because it's different brands have different companies have their own bonus and compensation schemes. The trend is to the luxury end. More and more companies consider a less connected to the bonus. So make the sales associates more responsible for the total performance of on their job, the total shopping experience of the customers. So less pushy to achieve sales. But the Chinese like to think that every effort I work result a remuneration in my pocket. So it is a culture that is very linked to financial rewards. So it is quite hard to switch very abruptly to just a salary, even though it's a high salary. I see some changes, but I don't see a trend, a complete switch.
As I understand it, that is more category relevant in that sense, that different products have different requirements for the shopping environment. Could you explain a little bit on the difference between the shopping experience consumers seek in, let's say, retail in a hypermarket, such as Carrefour, or in a luxury fashion goods store?
You pick out two extremes. One is the very high quantity, low margin, that is the hypermarket. One is the very low quantity, you sell 1 or 2, 5 items a day, but the margin is high. That is the luxury retail. And the customers for these two extremes definitely have different needs. For the hypermarkets part, people look for values there. They look for competitive price, while with an eye on a basic service. On the luxury end, people look for the total experience, look for something to enhance their lifestyle. So they have very high demand on service, while they probably already compared with prices anywhere. And if they step into this store and they already assess themselves as they can afford something in this store, they already look at. So the price is, I would say, second issue, compared with have a good experience and being treated nicely. That is more important to them.
I think in HR or in this whole industry, it's often said, live your brand. That the staff should encourage and live by the values of the brand. And how far is that true in China, especially going up the food chain of management up to the top levels?
Often the staff in the luxury end, they perceive the term "leave the brand" as while they work for the brand a longer time, they start to buy things from their own brand. So they start to carry the bags and wear the suit from the brand they sell. That they think, oh, I'm leaving the brand now. But the brand is actually a lifestyle and attitude, and that is more difficult to adopt than just the goods. Often, I have a training manager from one of our clients. He says he took his staff for an expensive dinner, trying to reward them. The dinner is the restaurant is a French restaurant, very expensive, but the people complain about the food. So in the West we say a dinner is never about the food, but more or less the Chinese staff still concentrate on the food of a dinner, and they neglect the ambience, the company, the conversation, the good time you have over a dinner. So that is also the same thing on the luxury retail. Still very much they think it's the goods. Chinese are still in the rush time now, trying to prove that they are materialistically living a luxury lifestyle. So they often overlook the ambience and the experience around just the goods. also when you say you're leaving the brand, the reality is you cannot expect the shop experience have the same lifestyle as the customers. So leaving the brand is actually you actually adopt a code of the brand, not actually just the goods. It's more important.